Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Blue Sunday. I'm your host, Bangkok Joe, but currently in Melbourne. And joining me, as usual, former president of the Carltonians, life member of the Carlton Football Club, Big Vincenz. How are you, Vince?
Good to see you, Joe. And this is your second week in Melbourne. So probably a good week to be in Melbourne, seeing you've had some earthquakes over there in Thailand and Myanmar and places like that have been pretty devastating. So hopefully everything's all right back where you live.
Well, I spoke to my girlfriend before she ran out of the house, panicking, as you would. But I'm in a very old building, so our building is quite sturdy and no problems. But a few of my friends, not so lucky. Some of them still can't go back into their high rise. There's a lot of high rise there until we get until they get the all clear from engineers. But if anyone is over in Myanmar and Thailand watching, chin up. Hopefully there's no aftershocks. I think it's all over. So, life goes on, Vince. Life goes on.
Yeah, yep.
Anyway, let's do the
you're flying back tomorrow, I believe, though.
I am. Tomorrow morning, I'm on a 11 o'clock flight out of here. I want to get as far away from my team as possible. But anyway.
I thought you'd be wanting to get the hell out of Victoria as soon as possible.
That too, but no, we stick with them, Vince. We're Carlton supporters through and through, so we don't give up. Hey, let's do some housekeeping, and then we will get on to what everyone probably wants to hear, Mr. David Rhys-Jones, who is patiently waiting in the background. As you know, we're Blue Sunday. We're proudly brought to you on the Jumper Punch channel. And this channel is sponsored by the Sporting Globe at Northland. And I believe in Gather Round, which is not next week, but the week after, there will be a big function open to Carlton supporters. There'll be nibbles. People will be able to buy drinks at par prices. And you can even have a good feed there. They have some great palmers. Went up there during the week. So, guys, get down to the Sporting Globe. Also, where would we be without my channel? Probably not a good time to promote tourism, but from what I've heard, it's all okay. So I retired working for you tours. You can give me a bell, get me on that website. It's got an email address that you can contact me. I'm happy to ring people. But we do tours of Thailand and neighbouring suburbs, except Myanmar. Actually, it's quite funny, Vince. You know, Myanmar is currently under a civil war. So it's quite funny. They've got a dictator in charge, and now all of a sudden he wants help from the West. Isn't that funny? From before where he didn't want anyone, and now they've had an earthquake and he wants help.
Yes.
Don't forget, you'll find us on the Facebook page at Blue Sunday and the YouTube channel at The Jumper Punch. I encourage everyone to like, share, and subscribe. Helps us help you. So, Vince, what else can we say? We won't do any memes, but what I want to do first is I want to say good evening to our regular viewers. We've got Sandra in the house, Tony, Jai, Enzo. Good evening, Enzo. Peter Barolo. Who else? Rocco Moro. Paul Mentor, I saw a family favourite here, Rocco, Enzo, I've said. Wayne, where are you? Rat Poison, daughter of a suicide who's been up there on the Gold Coast. So they've probably gone through, they had the hurricane, didn't they, which didn't come in. And then, is it AIR? Or LR?
It's LR, Alessandro.
LR.
His name is
Alessandro. Okay,
yeah.
And we've even got Rocco in the house. I just finished a coffee with Rocco and his beautiful partner Tan. So yeah,
no doubt down in Margaret Street, Carlton somewhere.
It was, Vince, at Brunetti's. We certainly don't have anything like Brunetti's in Thailand. And Peter Bobblehead has just joined us. Good day, Peter. Vince.
There's a business opportunity for you if I've ever heard one.
What's that?
Why don't you set up a Brunetti in Thailand?
No. Vince, Friday night, I had the displeasure, I guess, of going to Marvel Stadium. Can I just say, it was so bloody hot in that stadium. I was sweating. It's like they had the heater on. But anyway,
well, I was going to mention that a bit later on. But anyway, yeah.
And I think it was a bit too hot for the Blue Boys. So, Vince, go for it.
Very humid indeed. Yes, well, they're the final scores. The Western Bulldogs 12-11, 83. Kicked the last 2 goals of the game, defeating Carlton 11-9, 75. As you can see there, we got off to a pretty decent start. 4 goals, 3 to only 4 points in the first quarter. But
Vince, can I just interrupt you for a minute?
Yeah.
That last goal kicked by Aaron Norton was not a goal. I was sitting behind the goals, and that went over the goalpost. Even the players was telling the umpire. So, not that it made much difference, but anyway, go on.
Well, apparently it was a pretty line ball decision, but anyway. So as I said, we were 27-4 at quarter time, but then the Doggies eventually clawed their way back. They got it back to 3 goals at half time. And then they outscored us 5 goals to 2 in that crucial third quarter to get within 2 points at 3/4 time. And then the lead seesawed a little bit in that last quarter. They got the lead, then we got it back, and then they got the last 2 goals of the game, as I said, to win the game by 8 points. So very disappointing, and that's 3 losses in a row for this season. And it's also 10 losses in our last 12 games of football. So that's not counting practice matches, which no one cares about. So only matches that really matter. That's 10 out of our last 12 we have now lost. So I dare say the confidence levels down at Princes Park would be pretty low at the moment.
Yeah, it didn't look it. Anyway, Vince, let's get through some of the big statistics.
Yes, well, these are, I guess, the ones that distinguish the 2 sides the most. You'll see the disposal count. Now, what do you got there, Joe? You've got the wrong ones.
Why?
Well, I think you've got Hawthorn up there.
Oh, that should read Western Bulldogs, but yeah.
Oh.
But it is the right one.
You forgot to change the team at the top. Okay, yeah. Well, they got more of the ball, as you can see there. Basically, mainly in handballs, 20 more handballs, and they were more efficient with the ball, 72% to 69. Contested possession, they also won, and uncontested possession. We turned the ball over a little bit more. We had, well, basically the marks were the same, really. Contested marks, we had 11-7, so we had more there, but hit-outs also pretty even. It was a great duel there between De Koning and Tim English, I thought. That was a very good tussle all night. Clangers, we had 5 more clangers. Tackles, we actually out-tackled them 77-65, including 15 of them inside 50 metres to only 8. So you'd suggest by some of these numbers that we were well in the game and, if anything, maybe even had the better of them in certain categories. Scoring shots, they had 3 more. And, that
we're
was
more accurate.
The 12th goal was the only one that really mattered in the end. 1% as they had a couple more than us. And is that it? That's pretty much it, is it? Okay, so
I think you had a few extra that you wanted to talk about.
As the scores would suggest, it was a very even game by the end of the game. I think we got off to the better start. We held them off in the second quarter as they tried to make up some difference, but they only outscored us by a goal in the second quarter. But it was that third quarter where they got 5 goals to 2, which really put them back into the picture. And unfortunately, in a seesawing last quarter, we just couldn't find a way to get over the line. So it was a very close game. I guess if you dissect it, there'll be lots of areas of the game that we did well in. There were lots of players that we had who did quite well, and no doubt we'll discuss those with Reese. But there's also some areas that are very concerning, no doubt, and we need to address them urgently because The season is fast slipping away, and if we lose next week to Collingwood, it's going to make it a mountain to climb in order to make the finals.
Well, Vince, you mentioned the Magic Man. So,
by the way, before we get Reese on, I'll just mention major goal kickers for Carlton. Brody Kemp, a season, not only a season high, but a career high, 5 goals. Charlie Curnow came back to form a little bit there, especially early in the game, kicking 3. And Lewis Young, a bit of a surprise packet, kicking 2. So they kicked 10 out of our 11 goals, and Jesse Motlop was the only other one that got a goal in the first quarter. So, again, we got 11 goals, but only 4 goal kickers.
Okay. So, Vince, you mentioned the man himself. I'm sure he's in not one of his better moods about the Blues. So, everybody, let's welcome Mr. David Rhys-Jones. G'day, David. How you going?
Good to see you, Joe. Yeah, it looks like you're rugged up there. A bit cool for you down here, isn't it?
I'm freezing, mate. But I do have I've got a T-shirt on, so give me a break.
It's all right. I only wore 3 jumpers when it was 30 degrees last Friday.
Do you know, I did go rugged up to the football, but it was hot anyway. But
mate, it was as humid as all hell at the football. What were you doing with jumpers on?
Well, I'm glad
I thought it was going to be cold.
I was in Port Fairy, and I'm glad I was down there, to be honest. And ran into Valperovic down there too, which was surprising.
Oh, how's he going?
I walked into a pub to
original
watch the footy, and I put the head down, and the next minute I hear the booming voice. So yeah, it's good to see him.
I bet he hasn't given up the Blues.
Wolf, isn't he, Reese?
No, he's still haven't given it a nudge. He's looking good though, looking good. Because he has had some health problems, so good to see the big fella. And no, he's going well at the moment.
Never forget those days in the early 80s when Valperovic used to get the ball and basically kick the bladder out of the football, and everyone would go, woof.
Yep, the original.
Yeah, he was the original.
So David, another week, another loss. Nothing's changed. Go for it. What do you think of the game?
I mean, probably the best thing about it, we're not getting flogged anyway. I mean, what have we lost by? 13 points, 20 points, and 8 points in 3 matches. Yeah. Hawthorn are going to be up there. They'll be top 4 this year. So you can look at it from that point of view. But, you know, the Doggies, I think they're going to be borderline. But they were there for the taking. I actually said leading into the match that with Harry Mackay, you know, thinking he was coming back with Harry and Charlie down there, I thought we'd just have a bit too much firepower down there, and we'd win the game purely based on the players they had out. When I found out Harry wasn't playing, you know, I thought, here we go. It's a toss up again now, and yeah, as it was, and it really was a toss up. Could have gone either way. They wanted to win more. Cripple was hurt towards the end, so. Normally, you look around for who's going to pick him up and carry him over the line, and we didn't have anyone else. So that was it. They had players who were good enough to get him over, and Norton had a pretty ordinary night. I thought Jack Silvani did a very good job on him, and then, you know, there were some positives to come out of the game, but a lot more negatives, and you know, an undermanned Bulldogs team, and. Yeah, we just couldn't get the job done. So we're struggling. We're struggling at the moment. We're battling. De Conning's playing good footy. Couple of Georgie Hewitt's he's in everything at the moment, so he's getting a lot of the ball. And but too few, and you know, our small forwards are doing nothing. That's our real problem. We're getting nothing out of them, and. They should be feasting the balls down there enough, and they just don't get enough of the ball. And Motlop can't tackle. You know, he's slow. He can't tackle. I don't know. You know, start swinging things around. Give Ashton Moyer a go. I really want to see some hard decisions made soon, because it's Harry Lemmy's another one. I want to see him playing footy. This is his fourth year in the system. Big tall bloke, and we've had blokes injured, and all of a sudden he can't get a game. So, you know, we saw last year when Lemmy, Lord, and Binks were thrown into the team. You know, they can all play. They could all play. and they can do it. They're probably finding AFL football a hell of a lot easier than VFL. VFL's hard to get a kick in sometimes. The windy conditions. You're out in the suburbs somewhere on a bloody muddy ground. It's tough, and you come to AFL. The ball's coming to you a bit better. Probably not now forward line. It wouldn't be, but and that's the other thing that's killing us. Our foot skills are horrendous. I don't know, Vince, when you go through your stats and that, whether you look at kicking efficiencies and that.
Yeah, I do.
We'd be well down in that, well down. And
well, there's certain individuals that are actually bringing that average down more than anything else, Reese. I mean, you take Blake Acres, for example. I mean, his kicking efficiency was down in the 20s.
Yep.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah, 20s and 30s. I mean, he's having a shocker. His first 3 games have been deplorable, really. If you look at the replay and watch what happens to every single one of his possessions, it just either goes to the opposition or it goes nowhere near where it's meant to go in terms of to his fellow teammates. So he's having a really bad trot, and he might be due for a run in the reserves to try and find some form.
Well, that's it. These guys are, Blake Acres has been good over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But, he I don't know. He might have thought he's made it, or he might be a little bit ahead of himself. Or look, we don't know. We don't know what their pre-season was like. Whether he's had carried something through a pre-season, wasn't able to do the whole lot. We don't know these things. I mean, Walsh, you look at him, he doesn't look right. Charlie's not right at the moment. He's well off his best. He needs Harry down there or someone else down there. And
Walsh is running at around 55%. And a lot of his passes are going to opponents. Shots for goal are going nowhere near the centre of the 2 big sticks. So Walsh is really struggling with his disposal at the moment. Yeah,
and we found a forward. We found a forward too. We found Brody Kemp as a forward, and that's because he wasn't kicking from 20 metres out directly in front. He was kicking from 50 metres out, and he was kicking them through. And he put him 20 metres in front out, and I wouldn't bet on him. No, but, from 50 metres out, he's kicking them beautifully. So,
that's because he's forced to kick right through it and follow through.
Yeah, exactly. Keep him out there, keep him well away from goal, and he might be a bonus. I mean, Lewis Young went down there, and Lewis Young, I don't rate. Really, as he's a bits and pieces player who's going to do a job at times. But where are these kids we've recruited over the last 3 or 4 years? Where are they? The Harry Lemmings.
No idea.
Where are they? And they should be starting to impose themselves. Why don't
I'll tell you what they did. They dropped 2 of them. Lucas Camporeale after 2 games got dropped.
Yeah,
and Cooper
Lord. Fair enough. Yeah,
Cooper Lord got dropped.
But that's the thing; they're the easy ones, aren't they? Easy. You got a couple.
Yeah, they're easy picking.
They're the easy ones. Make some hard decisions. Put some pressure on the players who are not performing. And I mentioned 3 small forwards who just don't do enough. I mean, Lockie
Evans, Motlop, and Fogarty.
Fogarty, just doesn't do enough. I mean, you got to kick goals, do something. You just can't. Be a defensive,
forward.
Who cares about the half-back flanker unless he's a gun who's going to run down the field, and kick goals for him. But there's not too many of those sort of players anyway. So he hasn't got many to play on, and I don't know if he's not kicking goals or setting up goals. Then what the bloody hell's he doing out there? And. They keep saying that they have roles to play. They do their role within the team. Well, we need more than that. We don't need players who can play. We need players who can win matches for us. And you need to give the blokes. The funny thing about it is when coaches are struggling, they really get negative and players just get uptight and everything. It's funny when a coach gets a flick and all of a sudden the next week the players come out and play with a bit of freedom. I mean, have a look at what Hawthorn are doing. They're playing with freedom. They're running. They're taking the game on. We need to start doing something because we're miles away from everyone. We've gone and picked up players. Chera was going to be a superstar at Fremantle, and we picked him up at a pretty young age sort of thing and come across. Is he any better than he was at Fremantle right now?
No way.
Worse.
Is McGovern any better than he was, when we picked him up? Assad?
No.
None of these blokes have improved. No one's improving, and that's a real problem. We've got no development out of our players, and where you can see someone and be excited by him. I mean, a young bloke coming through, and you're going, "Geez, this kid, how good's he's had his couple of years of in the system and getting fit and right, and isn't he going to be a player of the future, or a player who has been in, and an Ollie Hollands, for example, has he got any better? You should be getting better. Every year you should be getting better as a footballer and smarter and, stronger and everything and more confident. Our players just stagnate. They really do just stagnate and wallow in mediocre performance, and that's what we get out of them.
It was a pretty good start, though, Reese. I mean, the first half of the first quarter, we were looking pretty good, I thought. I don't know what changed or what slowed us up, but after that first half of the first quarter, they then seemed to really control the play for the second half of that quarter, but they just couldn't get the goals on the scoreboard. So to some extent, that quarter time score flattered us. But what did you pick up that changed in the game for them to get back into it and fight their way back in that third quarter and almost tie the scores by three-quarter time?
Okay, I think on paper, we had a much better team than Footscray did on the weekend. I mean, if you look at the names and where they've come from, the money they're getting paid, you go through all that. Geez, I reckon we had a better team on paper than I didn't know some of those blokes from the Bulldogs. I didn't know who they were.
No, me either.
I haven't seen them before. So, and they're getting 20-odd possessions. There's a future there. You say, geez, have a look at this kid, pick up his 20-odd possessions. We don't.
How good's
have
that young Davidson, number 42?
There's one. They've got players who are coming through and improving at a rate of knots and coming. He's probably been in the system a couple of years now. I don't know whether he has or he hasn't, but
no,
they've got kids coming. We've got no kids coming through. None. Yeah. Zero. We're hoping on father-son picks and things like this. I mean, and that's got a way back on recruiting and the choices that are being made there. If we're just not picking the right people or we can't develop them, I don't know what it is, but we really lack in and you've got to have kids coming through because they create a bit of excitement. And when you're an older player, you love a young bloke coming out and showing a bit of dare and a bit of skill and having a real crack taking the game on. It gives you a buzz, lifts you sort of thing. So you love that sort of thing. But we just don't have them, and we don't put them in the team. We don't play them.
Reese, what about a lot of people are talking about our game plan? So Sandra, Reese, as a coach, what would you change in the game plan?
Does anyone know what our game plan is besides kick it long to our forwards? Get the ball and put it up in the air because we got, Harry and Charlie down there. So just kick it up in the air and they'll mark it. And that's our game plan. That's as far as I can see because that's what we do every bloody week. And so I don't think we have a game plan. I really don't think I'd love to know what it is. I'd love to know what it is because it's not exciting. It's boring. And it's shit footy, to be perfectly honest. It's just crap footy. It's nothing like the better teams are playing. Nothing like that. We're miles away from it. And we need to play with take some risks and just have a crack. Have a real crack. I mean, Collingwood this week will be the great. It could be one of the greatest. But then again, we need Harry in the team. Where the bloody hell is Harry? Fucking.
He played in the VFL. He played in a VFL intra-club game on Saturday. Did you know that?
I don't care where he plays. Hey, you know what? He's getting nearly $1 million a year. He should be playing in the bloody when he's supposed to be playing, and that's where he should be playing. Personal bloody. I'll get rid of these people if they got personal issues. You know, it's a sign of weakness as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know much about it these days, and I'll keep out of it. But Jesus Christ, footy was an escape. It was an escape to get out. It was an escape from the real world when you're playing footy. I mean, we had to work back in the day. But you'd go and play footy on a Saturday. That was your escape from everything. All the worries, all the bloody everything. Footy was the escape, and that's where you wanted to be. And that's where you could get out and show your stuff and forget about the bloody world behind. You know, you're in your own little world out there. That should be your place you want to get to. I mean, geez, I'm very, very disappointing. Players missing. You know, we've had Elijah Hollands, who was going to be I was really looking forward to his year this year, and he's off the rails. Harry, I don't know. Parrot told me his girlfriend left him. I said I would have had a party. I wouldn't have would have gone and played footy and had a party afterwards. I mean, there's 1 million of them out there. Jesus Christ, you're playing league footy, earning $1 million a year. You reckon you can't find a Sheila? Jesus. Well, mate, these days it mightn't be a Sheila. I don't know. The way him and his brother play too. Jesus Christ, nothing to surprise me.
I don't know. What do you think about this? What McKay has done proves that the players are not there for each other. I don't. But no one knows what his personal issue is. It can't have been that bad. He only missed 1 week, and then he can come and play in the reserves. He was actually, I don't know if you noticed, but he was in the Essendon rooms after their match the other night, talking with his brother.
Yeah.
Well, if I was Brad Scott, I'd have kicked him out straight away. Well, why would you go see your brother in an Essendon room?
Can we get Nate Caddy for him next year then? Can we just do a straight swap there? I'd get that kid Caddy down there any day of the week. But if he wants to be down there, geez, I couldn't sign the papers quick enough, to be honest. But
anyway. Broken heart doesn't break the foot. So Reese, can we say that at Carlton, the problem lies? I mean, the problems always start at the top, right? So we're talking about board and then CEO and football department. Do you think that the recruiters have been there too long? That what's his name, Austin and Brad Lloyd, and I mean, I don't think he's picked up anyone. What's Austin's first name?
Nick.
Yeah, tell me who he's recruited of any worth.
Look, I mean, you get the players down to the club, and to be perfectly honest, when you look at the list, they're not far off where they get picked. You know, very rarely,
no.
You know, someone slide right down the bottom, or someone who you've never heard of get picked number 3, 4, or 5. So they know who they all are. But it's when you get them into the club and what you do with them and how you develop them and how you develop as human beings, as men, as everything, that's where we must fall down. That's where we must fall down, because we don't improve people. We have people who stagnate or go backwards in their ability as when they should be getting better. So, geez, if you're on the board, you'd want a real clean sweep of what's bloody going wrong down there, and don't. It's not to point fingers. It's just to say, you know, is there a disconnect between the coaching staff and the recruiting people in what they need and what they, are they at odds with each other? Nick Austin should be coming out and saying, I'd be giving Harry Lemmy a game. I'd be, putting Ashton Moyer in there instead of Evans or whoever. I mean, people have got to come out and be a bit honest and just break down some barriers so we can all get on the same track. So we're working together, but it just doesn't seem to be, you know. And as I said, our development is non-existent. So how do players get better if they can't develop or no one's developing around them? We just look at Cripper and go, we just look at Cripper and go, we'll just follow the leader there. I mean, no, you're all individuals. You've got to get out and create your own environment and your own identity out on the football field. I mean, I presented jumpers to players, over the years, and I always say to them, we all wear the CFC on the front. That's us. That's us as a team. But on the back, that's your individual. That's you. That's your identity within the team. That's your number. And get out there and wear it with pride and make something of it, because you're the only one who can do that. You're the only one who can do that. The team stuff, the thing on the front, that's all of us. The number on the back, that's you. And that's you need to get out there and do something.
Vince, what do you think are the issues facing the club? I mean, you're a life member. You've been president of the coterie group, the biggest coterie group there. Well, in our successful days, what's the big disconnect, do you think?
Well, look, can I just, first of all, get you to think back to when we had that situation halfway through 2021 when David Teague was the coach, and we had an incoming president who decided to start flexing his muscle even before he became president, and he called for a review to be conducted, an external review. And the result of that review, in essence, was to sack the coach and get rid of all of his assistants. And one of the other things he did was sack his own CEO, or the CEO that he inherited from the previous president. Now, the people running the football department were largely untouched. And I'm talking about head of football. What they did do is bring on Greg Williams as the new director in charge of football on the board. Mm-hmm. Brad Lloyd remained in his position, and there was nobody really affected in either the recruiting and list management area or in the player development area. And what that tells me is that whatever sort of review that was, in my opinion, it was purely to produce a document that could justify to the board to sack the coach and his assistants.
And the president and the CEO.
Well, I think the CEO situation was just his dislike for the CEO, and I think he just wanted to get someone who was a proven commodity, and that's why he went and recruited Brian Cook, who was ready to retire, threw the checkbook at him and said, I need you for 3 years, what do you want? And he paid him. So what that showed me is that review did not go far enough.
Yep.
It was purely there, as a lot of these consultants do, to provide a document that justifies what they want to do. They've already made up their mind. You can't tell me that Luke Sayers hadn't made up his mind that Teague had to go, the assistants had to go, and we needed a new coach, and he wanted to come in as the new president with a proven CEO and a whole range of new coaches. Now, what it shows is that review didn't go far enough, and it wasn't really done for all the right reasons. And part of the problem, and in my opinion, the real problem here, as usual, is the fish rots from the head. And until you get a board who is savvy when it comes to how to run a football club rather than how to run a publicly listed company or some sort of large corporation, you're not going to go ahead any further, because a lot of these people are making the big decisions, and they're making some of those decisions for the wrong reasons. That's my personal view.
So what's this new president like, Vince?
Well, look, this new president that we have now that's taken over from Luke Sayers, again, is head of JP Morgan, a very large company in Australia and New Zealand. He's based in Sydney, so he's not even based here in Melbourne at the moment. He believes that that's not an issue. it'll be interesting to see whether we see or hear from him if the situation gets any worse at Carlton, because what you normally see from presidents that keep a low profile is that you only see them when the decision's made. So when the decision's made, if the decision's made to sack Michael Voss, for example, that's when you'll probably see him at best. And sometimes even then they don't show their faces. They just get the CEO to do it. So I don't think you're going to find him to be a very outspoken or high-profile type president. I don't think that's his style. But that's fine, so long as the board is actually making all the right decisions with all the right reasons behind them. And that's what I question.
But as a business, the Carlton Football Club couldn't be running better.
Look,
you got to tip your hat at that.
Yeah, we've made some great inroads as a club financially. We've got great sponsorship, membership, all of that.
And what really needs to be looked at and was supposed to be looked at was, football. Every area of the football, area of the side of the football really needs to be dissected and put out there for everyone to see and just say, look, why aren't our players getting better? Why are we getting injured all the time? Why? There's so many whys. What's happening? What is happening down there? And because the football clubs now are so insular in protecting their players and everyone else, you just can't get word on what is happening. So you just and that's where a lot of misinformation, I suppose. I hate that word because all those lefties say it all the time. But
I'm with you, Reese.
Stuff, but it festers itself because people want to know what's going on, and then a rumor will start, and this will start, and sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. So and that's but as a football club, as a business, club's going fantastic. As a football team, we put ourselves in a position to have all these guys coming, into the right age group at the same time, and basically peaking and giving us a chance to be up there and be a premiership contender, and that's going to run over the next 3 years. Once that 3 years is gone, we're out of the loop. And then Tasmanian sides in, we'll be wallowing around the bottom of the ladder like we were through the mid 2000s. And it's be an absolute nightmare for the football club. So, decisions and hard decisions need to be made now. And I'd rather people come together than start knocking each other, but start getting together and saying, what have we done with recruiting? What have we done with, development? What have we've fallen down somewhere where other clubs are miles ahead of us. So it's a whole, but given that, I mean, as I said before, what we've been beaten by, 3 goals, 2 goals and 1 goal basically over the last 3 weeks. So it's not the end of the world, but it is if you think of where we should be and where we thought we'd be. I think where everyone thought we'd be.
Can I ask you a question, Reese?
Kilda porters putting shit on. I mean, that's as low as you can go. I mean, getting St Kilda people having a crack at you. I mean, one bloody premiership in their lifetime, and they have the gall to bloody have a crack. But good on them. They beat Richmond. We didn't.
Can I ask you a question, Reese?
Yep.
Would you agree that last year, compared to the year before, we went backwards? We just fell into the 8 and we lost our only final. Yep. And the scoreline was, I think, 60-0 halfway through the second quarter. And compared to the year before, we had retreated.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
So therefore, where's the accountability? Who was made to pay the price for us going backwards?
The fitness bloke
kept his job.
No, the fitness bloke.
All of the assistants kept their job.
The fitness bloke, the conditioning bloke, He copped a lot. He copped it all.
He was the only one. Jack Russell or whatever they call Andrew Russell, right?
Yeah, Andrew Russell.
He's the only one they got rid of.
That was it.
And yet, with a new high performance manager now, the bloke from Sydney Swans, has anything really changed? Have we still had just as many injuries?
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying here, then you got to start looking at the players we've got, and so we've got the wrong players. We have not got the right players. We have not got the players who are going to take us to where we want to go.
Only that, we traded out a lot of heart and soul players like Matt Owies and Matt Kennedy, etc., who played a great game, by the way, on Friday night. And we seem to have put all of our eggs in this one basket called pick number 3. And when Jagger Smith was picked at 3, we all were given the usual hype by the Carlton PR department. Then he goes down with a knee injury. Okay, that's bad luck. We know that. But now that leaves us with nothing to show for all of those trades and all of that recruitment decision-making in the off-season, at least for this season anyway. So we've actually got fewer players that are proven on our list than what we had last year.
Yeah, and the player, look.
The only one we got in was Haynes from GWS, and he hasn't exactly set the world on fire, has he?
He's getting a little bit better, but it's he's a 32-year-old. He's not your future either. So
my point is that there's very little accountability, and I get the impression that entire football department is just like a mates club, jobs for the boys, and very little accountability. I'd love to know from anyone on the board how they hold anyone accountable for their positions in that club. How do we know whether the recruiting people have done their job adequately? How do we know whether the development people are doing their job adequately? How do they measure whether the high performance people are performing? I mean, where are the metrics here? Everyone's job, if you've got a job you go to every week, surely your performance is measured. You've got KPIs, you've got certain targets you have to meet. It doesn't seem like anyone's accountable for anything at our club.
Well, that's where you've got a football director, you've got a football manager. We don't hear from them.
But I'll be honest with you. This is the one area that I was hoping and expecting things could change under Brian Cook. But I've got to say, in the last 3.5 years, I haven't really seen that side of anything that Brian Cook's done. I haven't seen that, other than financial.
Membership. If you go through membership and you go through, but if you go through a lot of that, and it's very important for us because we were down and out not long ago, and we
I understand that. So, I understand
we've kicked back from that angle, but.
I'm referring to football. I'm referring to our achievements.
But that's what I mean. I mean, but Brian Cook wasn't brought in to fix football, was he? Because he's not. Who was put there? Diesel was put there.
Well, hang on.
He was put in to help.
Before Brian Cook got there.
Brad Lloyd's there.
But before Brian Cook got there,
we don't hear.
We'd already paid back our debt. We were already debt free. That's one of the things Le Giudice used to pride himself on, that we've eradicated all of our historical debt. So we didn't come into a club that was broke.
I didn't expect Brian Cook to do anything really in the football side of things, because that's not his caper. That's he's a general manager of a whole club. He puts the people in, and that's where you got to look at the people who are. And there you're looking at Greg Williams, the football director, and you're looking at Brad Lloyd, who's running the whole shebang. They are in charge, and they're the ones who I suppose report back to the board. So, but we don't hear from them. We never hear from them. We never hear from the football people. We hear from everyone else. We don't hear from the football people. So, and that's where it can, it can be a save your ass type of attitude. Go missing when things are bad, and then put your head in there and pat on the back when things are going well, and show your face then. But there's too much of that happening.
I guess what I'm referring to, just to be clear, I'm not expecting Brian Cook to run the football department. What I'm trying to say is, as the CEO who oversees the entire club on a day-to-day basis, I was hoping to see some clear evidence of standards being set. And and people being made accountable for what they're there for. And I'm just not sure that that's actually taken place in any visible way anyway. If it's happened behind the scenes, I'm not aware of it.
Well, what I'm hoping for is that Graham Wright is looking at these things right now, because he is a football person, and that will be one area that he has got some input in, and he'll probably delegate a bit of that other stuff, whether it be membership or sponsorship, where Brian Cook might have been very good at, to other people. But we will have a person in there who will have a lot more oversee of the football stuff. So that in itself is going to be good. But I want to hear from people. I want to hear people come out and defend Vossi, for example. No one's defending him. Brad Lloyd's not coming out. Diesel Williams isn't coming out defending Vossi at the moment and coming out and saying why or whatever. No, nothing's being said. So the coaches, they're leaving him out there to hang himself at the moment. So it happens too often because people don't want to take responsibility themselves for letting things get to this level where we are. But and we're not out of it yet. We're not out of it yet. But we need a big turnaround in attitude, and it's just. It could be this game against Collingwood. It could be that they just come out and take it on and just say, "Geez, this is our line in the sand game. This is our game." We just say, it's up. Take it on.
Okay.
Run, do everything, take risks. Just have a real crack and why not? Just throw the magnets around. Give them all a chance. Give them a chance to express themselves. They're all good footballers. Because you don't get to that level without having ability. But sometimes your personal what would you call it? Talents and expression can be limited by coaches who just want you to do the negative stuff, and then we're going to get out of that, and we're going to start playing positive and start playing like Hawthorn, run and share the ball. Where's some passages to play? Well, we have in every game so far, which have been as good as you'll see any club play. But
I was just about to mention this. Even if we beat Collingwood, right, it's just masking the cracks. I don't think it's fixing the problem.
It's amazing how it'll be amazing how, and especially Collingwood, it'll be amazing how one win will turn everything around very quickly. And
I hope so.
They're just not playing with any confidence. They're not playing with any flair. They're scared, and that in a lot of ways, that's why our kicking's bloody terrible because they're scared. They're second thinking. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to stuff
second
it up.
Guessing. Yeah.
Will I take that risk over there? No, I'm going to take the easy one down the line. And when you're thinking and your head's not right, you stuff it up. And then the bloke beside you's lacking in confidence, and he's not knowing what to do, and it festers itself right through. And sometimes you just got to come back and say, rightio, here we go, 18 against 18 out in the field. Let's just take it on. And this is what I say. When teams have sacked the coach, for example, and the new coach comes in and he hardly knows anything about it. Just go out and play, boys. Go and play. Enjoy yourselves. Have a bit of fun out there. I mean, do our blokes look like they're having fun? They don't look like they're enjoying themselves. Have a look at Hawthorn. They have fun. They have fun out there. Collingwood blokes look like they're having fun. Our blokes don't look like they're having fun out there. They look like they're going to work and it's a job and this is,
and they don't like their job. Well, the best example is Adam Sard. I mean, at Essendon, he was he got the ball, just ran and kicked it long. Bounces. Now he takes a bounce and then looks around, wants to do some dinky short pass out to the wing. I mean,
there's no one down there. There's no one there.
That's not what they recruited him.
But he looks up and there's four backmen all lined across because they set up behind And he needs to take that next. He has to run 50 yards to break that line, and that's what's happening. They're looking up, coming out of the back line, and all of a sudden, there's no one to kick it to. There's no one to kick it to. They've got
or there's Jesse Motlop with 3 tall defenders around.
Yeah, kick it to Jesse on the lead, sort of thing. That's
anyway.
I'm like, so and teams are setting up behind the ball very, very well, and we haven't worked a way to pick around it, and that's really why
we've become very predictable, basically.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
we're the most predictable team by 100 miles. We're just so predictable in the way we play footy, and it's time to loosen those ropes and have a bit of flair. Get out and try something different. Throw the magnets around, throw some players around, different positions, whatever. Try something, because what's happening? You keep doing the same thing over and over, and that's what we do.
Same result.
That's what we do. We hope we're going to outlast a team and fall over the line, instead of planning to get out there and thump a team or do what we should be doing.
I don't know. Anyway, we've got millions of questions, which Enzo's asked, how do you explain McGovern's form? Well, it's just all confidence. Let's get to the votes. David?
Yep. Tom De Koning, the best big man. He's really gone to another level, but I really do hope that Pitnet can come back into that team too, because I think Tom De Koning can be a real weapon down forward and also around the ground. So, having Pitnet in the team could help us a lot as well. Georgie Hewitt, I think he's been probably one of our better players over the first three games. He's been terrific. Kemp gets a vote from me for his 5 goals. Surprised me, and as I said, with Lewis Young kicking a couple too, they both surprised me down forward. To be honest, I thought where we're going to get the goals from, and I thought Charlie'd have to kick a bag, but he's still not quite right and doesn't look right. But that's it for me. 3, 2, 1.
Vince?
Yes, I thought Tom De Koning was outstanding. It was a great duel with English, but I think he, again, a bit like last week against Lloyd Meek, had the better of the play around the ground, and he got an enormous amount of clearances himself. Not only did he do the ruck work, but he also did the work of a midfielder. I think he got about 28 possessions, and was just an outstanding game by Tom De Koning. And I just think he's growing into probably being arguably Carlton's most important player. And I say that after really considering the impacts of, whether Cripps was in the side or not, or whether Wiedering was in the side or not, because I think he has made a huge difference to the middle for us. I gave Brody Kemp 2 votes. I thought it was an outstanding performance to kick 5 goals, and he kicked very accurately. And not only that, he put on some great tackles as well and did some of the defensive things. So he can certainly hold his head up high, and it was a refreshing change to see someone leading up the ground and getting some marks around that 45, 50-metre line and kicking straight. And I actually gave a vote to Wiedering. Look, I tossed up who to give this one to. I could have given it to about 5 or 6 players. I thought Jack Silvani also did an outstanding job on Aaron Norton, but Wiedering was on the most dangerous player in their team, young Sam Darcy, who fought his way back into the game, to give him some credit. But I thought Wiedering had the better of him on the night and repelled a number of attacks. And, if we do happen to lose Jacob, we're in a lot of trouble.
Don't think we will. Okay, so I was exactly the same as Reese. I was going to give Hewitt the 3 votes, but I thought Tom De Koning was clearly our best player. Again, Hewitt been our most consistent midfielder this year, so I don't know what we would have done if we hadn't got him from the Swans. And again, Brody Kemp, it was good to see him kicking accurately, chasing. He fumbled a few times, but I think they all do. So our leaderboard, Tom De Koning is a clear leader on 17 votes. He's polled in all 3 games. Hewitt is second on 13. Cripps 11, Wiedering 9, and Brody Kemp is on 4, which brings us to next week. Oh, sorry.
Spirit of Carlton, how are you?
Yes, I've beaten it again. Yeah, I've beaten you again. So, anyway, let me do the Spirit of Carlton.
Lewis Young. I give it to Lewis, and because he performed against his old club, I suppose. So I'm just hoping that he can have a performance like he did against his old club, against Collingwood this week. And I've been critical of him over the time. So, it was good to see him bob up, kick a couple of goals, keep his eye on the ball a few times and be switched on, which he wasn't in the first few minutes of the Hawthorn game. So, I'll hopefully, they can spur him along, having a reasonable match. And we especially if Harry's not going to be back or we don't really know what's happening around the place. So, we need our tools performing.
Yeah. Okay, and like I said, this brings us to next week. Thursday, the 3rd of April, MCG, 7:30 p.m. Our rivals, the team, I can't even say their name. I refer to them as the Filth. So, David, give us your understanding.
Look, they were always great matches, and it doesn't matter where you are on the ladder. And this is why I hope our players can come up this week because, the draw comes out every year, and you look at when you're playing Collingwood, you play, where you're playing them, what time of the year we're at. It used to be Waverley or MCG or whatever, and they'd be the ones in the back of your mind, you'd really want to get up for because Carlton Collingwood rivalry is huge, and over the years they've played some fantastic matches, some great matches, some great grand finals that we've beat them in, and none better than was it 1970 and 79, so two good ones there, but. Hopefully the guys can come up because it's a real important game, and I think Brendan Bolton got me to speak to the players on a Thursday before a Collingwood game. This is going back quite a few years now, and I thought, geez, I really got nervous before, and I thought, what am I going to say to the players? They all know how to play football, this, that, whatever. And it's funny, I walked in there and basically the whole. I didn't speak for that long, but the whole thing was this is the one game. I said, but when you run out of the ground, look around the ground. You'll see Carlton people everywhere. This is for them. This is the game you want to win for them because this will, doesn't matter where you are on the ladder. This will put a bigger smile on their face walking out Collingwood again than any other opponent. It might be for a short space of time or whatever. But this is the one you do for your supporters. And, they got up and won that game too, which I was pretty bloody wrapped in. But, might
have to get you in this week again.
Well, let's hope that, that they can pull one out for their supporters because they owe us.
Reese, one of our viewers actually put up a comment that he reckons that the Carlton-Collingwood rivalry means bugger all to these players. Would you agree with that? Do you not sense the same sense of rivalry in the current group of players in today's day and age than what used to exist back in the 70s and 80s?
Well, you're not close enough, but you've got to if a coach doesn't bring it up during the course of the week, then they're kidding themselves. This is rivalry. This is our enemy. This is our mortal enemy, and this is who we go to fight. This is a battle we have to win, and it's a massive game, massive game, and I don't know now. I don't know the inner workings of the players and the coaches and that these days, and whether they do that sort of stuff. But if you get that little 1% out of blokes, then you utilise every single thing you can, and I'd be surprised if Vossi doesn't use it this week because It is. This is the one. This is the one game. Your supporters, you can be sitting down second last on the ladder, and you beat Collingwood, and they're going to walk away
happy.
Geez, it hasn't been a real bad year after all.
Vince, give us a quick summation. We'll go to tips in a minute. We'll go straight to the tips, and you can tell us. Because so, David, your tip is.
Oh, on former, you've got to go for Collingwood. So I reckon they'll, what did I say, 45 points. Yeah, so 45 points. And how can you tip our blokes, to be perfectly honest? And I don't want you to get too far ahead, Joe. So I know you. I knew you'd be on them, and loyalty will only take me so far.
We're playing for the big prizes here. We're playing for big prizes. Yeah, Vince.
Yeah, look, I agree with Reese that if the coach can use any tactic at all to get an extra 1% out of the players, you'd take it. So, yeah, if it means talking about the Carlton Collingwood rivalry and getting someone in maybe during the week to talk to them, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, look, logic would suggest that we're going to be coming off a 6-day break, pretty banged up from a very tough game against the Dogs, and injury concerns over Zach Williams, even Cripper must be pretty banged up at the moment. They're coming off a week's break, so they're going to have had a 13-day break since their Friday night match against the Bulldogs last week. So, logic would say that Collingwood's going to win this game and probably run away with it in the second half because we're going to be out on our feet. But you never know what games like this can serve up. So we can only hope and pray that the players find something to motivate them during the week and to really take it up to the Magpies and somehow get over the line. Now, I've got another question for you, Reese. If Harry Mackay puts his hand up to come back this week, after the way Charlie played, Lewis Young played, and Brodie Kemp played, is he an automatic selection in the team, or how would you handle it if you were the coach?
No, he has to be. He has to be. But I'll tell you what, if I was in Vossi's shoes, there'd be a lot of heat on him. There would be a lot of heat on him. He owes us. He owes us, and I mean that'd be one thing Wolsey would say. He'd look him square in the eye before the game and say, "You owe us.
Yes.
Get out there and pay us back because you owe us." And that'd be it. That'd be it. And if you can stand up and be a man, that's what we need out there. We need a big. He's too good a footballer. To not be out there, unfortunately, because you'd love to have him run around the twos for a week, but unfortunately, as I said, I thought last week, I thought if we had Harry and Charlie down there, I know Charlie's underdone, but I thought just having Harry there would have given him another, given Charlie a little bit of a lease of life sort of thing. But when he's the main man, they just sit two blokes back on him and make life hard for him. So. It'll release Charlie a bit and allow him to express himself and just double the headaches for the. I don't think Collingwood would be planning much for Lewis Young and Brodie Kemp, to be perfectly honest. But if Harry Mackay's out there, it poses some big problems for him.
All right. Anyway, well, look, I expect us to keep up with them for at least a half, maybe 2.5 to 3 quarters, but. My tip is that they will end up running away purely on fitness and form and eventually get over the line by 29 points. That's my tip.
And I've gone for I can't say that C word. I've gone for the filth by 25 points, unfortunately. So that brings us to the tipping ladder. I tip the Bulldogs. Thank you.
Yes,
I'm being a David Rhys-Jones. I'm tipping with my head.
In fairness to Reese and myself, we actually were tipping on the basis of having both Harry and Charlie in the side that week. And in the end,
and so was I. So was I. I was tipping on that too.
It begs the question. Reese. If we had Elijah Hollins and Harry Mackay both available playing in the last 3 weeks, would that have made some sort of difference to the results of the last 3 games?
Well, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something else, Vince. If my auntie had balls, she'd be my uncle. Okay, so
yeah, that's right. So anyway,
yes.
All right. Well, until Saturday night, or when is it? Friday? Is it Thursday night? Thursday night. So
yep.
We'll see what happens. But David, once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We know your time's precious, but thanks a lot for being candid and honest.
This is like a bit of therapy for me, actually, to come and unleash and unload a heap of bloody anger that's building up inside at the moment.
We might have to get our services on Medicare so David can claim them.
Thanks, guys.
Anyway, all right, David, have a good.
Let's hope we can get a couple back this week and go the Mighty Blues. Come on, let's get it.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Good on you, Reese.
Cheers. See you, Reese. You gotta love the candid, don't you?
There you go, Dr. Joseph. You're apparently his psychiatrist every Sunday night.
Well, I don't know about that. Anyway, Vince,
we're joint psychiatrists.
Let's hope. Hey, Vince, do you know there's actually some other games being played, and there's one still going. But let's go to the ones that have been completed.
Yes, well, it all started last Thursday night when the Bombers finally put it all together. Not great kicking for goal, but it was still good enough to win over Port Adelaide, who just don't seem to travel very well at the moment. 9-18-72 to Port Adelaide 8-12-60, and another disappointing loss for Ken Hinckley's boys, but certainly an encouraging sign for Brad Scott and the Essendon players. They certainly rose to the occasion there on Thursday night. Good win.
The next game?
Then we had, of course, Saturday, we had another deplorable performance by Melbourne. I'd venture to say their coach must be skating on thin ice too at the moment. I know they won a flag 4 years ago, but I tell you what, if they keep playing like this, I can see a change by the end of the year at least. The Gold Coast Suns under Damien Hardwick are finally starting to show signs that they might be worthy of a place in the finals. I know that's calling it very early in the season, but gee, they've been impressive in their only 2 games so far. 18 goals, 120 to Melbourne's 8-14-62. Well, most of us expected a bit of a fight back from Melbourne this week after last week's 10-goal loss to North Melbourne, but they were just as bad this week. St Kilda, big win over Richmond, eventually running away with it, 20-15-135, 82-point winners over the Tigers, 7-11-53, and I guess the young Tigers are going to have some of those beltings along the way.
Which should have been to us as well, but anyway.
Yeah, well, that's another story. Then, of course, we had 2 fantastic games last night. One in Tasmania at Launceston. Geez, Hawthorn know how to win in Tassie, don't they? Their winning strike rate down there is huge. 10-16, 76 after being down by about 5 or 6 goals at quarter time. They fought back and eventually got over the GWS Giants 9-10-64. Only a 2-goal margin, and a lot of people think that these 2 sides would be right up there in the top 4 by the end of the year. So, great game by Hawthorn again, and they go to 4 and zip, and now they've got a week off before they go to Adelaide for gather round, where they'll be up against Port Adelaide. Then, of course, we had another great comeback. Geez, the Brisbane Lions get off to slow starts, don't they? But they know how to come back. 10-10-70, defeating Geelong 9-7-61. And, that just goes to show you the steel that they've got in that side. And they've also gotten off to a very good start. This time, last year, they were 0-3. This year, they're 3-0. So, totally different start to the year.
Okay.
Geelong have lost their last 2, so they'll be smarting from that. They'll be looking to atone next Friday night against Melbourne. And now we have today's games. Adelaide, comfortable winners over North Melbourne, 17-12, 114 to North Melbourne, 12-6-78. And an update, Joe?
Currently, it is, well, it hasn't got the score, but it's got AFL, of course. Fremantle leading by 97 points. Let me get the score. It's 14-13-97 to the Eagles. 8.
You said they were leading by 97 points.
No, I said they're leading by 42 points.
Oh, righto.
Yeah, and the score is 14-13-97 to the Eagles 8-7-55, and there is 7.5 minutes in the last quarter to go. So I think
so Fremantle will break their duck, and West Coast will be one of only 3 teams to be winless. It'll be themselves, it'll be Melbourne, and it'll be us. So we'll be in the bottom 3 by the end of the round.
Well, let's go to the ladder. There you go, Vince. That won't change.
So Hawthorn, the only team to have played 4 games. The ladder's going to look ridiculous all year, thanks to the woke football league. You've got Hawthorn on 4 wins and 16 points, ahead of Adelaide and Brisbane on 12. They're also undefeated. And then you've got Gold Coast, who have only played 2 games, and they're also undefeated on 8 points. So the first 4 teams are all undefeated, but they've all played different amounts of games. 5th is GWS, after having suffered their first loss. They're on 8. Collingwood on 8. St Kilda on 8. And the Western Bulldogs are on 8 as well, inside the 8 at the moment. And then the second half of the ladder, we've got Geelong, North Melbourne, Sydney, Port Adelaide, Essendon, Richmond, and in a few minutes, Fremantle, all on 1 win out of 3 matches played. So that's 17.
So Fremantle will
1 and 2.
Yeah, Fremantle will go to 15 and we'll go to 16, Melbourne 17, and West Coast Eagles 18.
So at the end of this, as I said before, we'll be in the bottom 3. So Carlton will be 16th, Melbourne 17th, and West Coast will be on the bottom of the ladder after round 3.
And a bit, or 2 and a bit, who knows?
Yeah. Gold Coast have played 2 games after round 3. Hawthorn's played 4 games after round 3. Everyone else has played 3 games.
I'm confused. Anyway, Vince, you know what time it is now?
Tell me, Joe.
Time for Vince's verdict, or Big Vincenz's verdict.
Yes.
So, Vince, what is your verdict tonight?
Well, the main one is in relation to the Harry Mackay situation. Whatever your thoughts are and whatever your opinion is on what happened during the week in terms of whether Harry Mackay should be supported, and the usual thing we get today, we're going to put our arms around him and we're going to show him all the support that he needs and all the rest of the business. There's a lot of other people that have an opposing view and say that this is a sign of weakness, that players are being paid huge amounts of money to do what they do, and that this is just, unacceptable. The questions I have in my mind are, first of all, what are these issues? Because last week it was indicated by the club that he was out with illness. Now, that would have told 99% of us that he had come down with the flu, or he had got some sort of a stomach bug or gastro or something along those lines. I believe that the club has since come out and said that, no, he's having some personal issues, and the same reasons he's not going to play this week apply to what happened last week. So, in other words, it wasn't illness of the types that we would have expected. It was more to do with he's dealing with some personal issues. Now, whether it's he's broken up with his girlfriend, or he's had a second strike on a drug test, or he's having gambling problems, or whatever, it's all up for speculation. But the question is, when they allow players to take personal leave, as they put it, do these players still get paid? Do they still get remunerated the same way? And the question in my mind is, where does this stop? We've already had 2 players inside the first 3 rounds make themselves unavailable because of these so-called personal issues. Now, where does it stop? What if we had another player this week come out and say he needs time off, and another one, and another one? Where do you want to draw the line before you say, hey, enough of this? Why is it okay for Elijah? Why is it okay for Harry and not okay for anyone else? So I think there's got to be some boundaries around this. And I personally don't believe that players that take time off for these sorts of reasons are honouring their contract. I mean, most people that go to work and have to hold down a job, they don't get necessarily allowed to just take time off whenever they feel like it because they're dealing with some sort of personal issue. I just think there needs to be a balance here between showing support. And don't get me wrong, I'm not denying that Harry might be going through something traumatic. But there's got to be a balance between showing support for players that are going through certain things, but also requiring them to honour their contracts, and certainly if they expect to get remunerated. I mean, if Harry said, look, I need to take 5 weeks off to deal with this issue, but I'm happy for you not to pay me, I think a lot of people would say, okay, well, at least he's literally putting his money where his mouth is. But where do you draw the line here? I'm curious to know what our viewers think. I'm sort of a little bit mixed between the issue of showing support versus, saying, okay, well, there's a certain limit to how much we can give you some space to deal with these things. Eventually, you're going to have to come back and do your job, just like anyone else who has to go to work. So I don't know. I just think it's a bit of a it's certainly a sore point for Reese. He wasn't very impressed with it. But I don't know. I'll be very interested to see what our viewers have got to say about it.
Some of the people are talking about whether they get paid or not. I can tell you that I don't. I mean,
the guy's on nearly $1 million a year, Joe.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if this is the case, because sometimes they get injured. Okay, and I think it all depends on how they. I'm only going by my business partner, who has some input into a couple of players' contracts, but he does soccer players, and he told me it all is dependent on the way that the contract is structured. So some of them are on a base salary plus match payment. So all your year 1 to 3 players are on a basic match payment plus. They're on basic salary plus a match payment, and like he's saying, a number 1 draft pick in the first year can earn upwards of, I can't remember what he said, 300,000 or something stupid. But I'm led to believe that in their contracts, most of them now state that this is how much they get paid, and they've got to play a certain number of games. So again, there's no standard contract. It's all because of the AFLPA. They have all these things, like they're saying, oh, well, Vince, when he worked in his real estate firm, was entitled to 30 days a year sick. These guys are no difference. So, again, we'd have to see how Harry's contract is
we're all guessing.
Structured.
We're all guessing because, yet again, there's very little transparency or honesty. There's not much disclosure of anything when it comes to the club or the AFL.
Yeah, but you'll never get that transparency. Kane Corns has been advocating for years that all player contracts should be made public, right? And he gets shot down every year by the AFLPA. He gets shot down by players. Some of the other commentators even say to him that, why? Do you want to know, would you want people to know what you're on? He said, I'm more than happy to disclose what I'm on, but I'm not going to be the only one. If you want to know, just ask me. So I don't know. As a member, I mean, we're paying their salaries basically. So do you think they should? That's what I'd like to know. Do people think that they should make their contracts public knowledge? Because we know how much each of the CEO and all that get, because that's all that's disclosed in the financial reports. They might not have names, but you can guess by the salary. Like the dearest salary will be the CEO. The next one will be the director of football or whatever. So I don't know.
I mean,
it's
I'll give you another example. It was I think it might have been about 2 years ago. Jacob Wiedering went through a lot of very, very stressful issues to do with his finances, and I think you'll find that he got scammed.
He got scammed out of all the money in his bank.
He got scammed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, he had to deal with that, but he still fronted up, and he still went to training, and he still, performed on match day. And I take my hat off to him for doing that. I mean, where are you going to draw the line here, Joe? I mean, what if another 2 or 3 players come up during the week and say, I'm going through too much stress here, What if Patrick Cripps did it? What if Jacob Wiedering did it? What if Tom DeConning did it? I mean, we would be all up in arms. We wouldn't care so much if a Frankie Evans did it, or if, one of these other players that's on the fringe of the team that can get picked or dropped any 1 week from the other. We don't seem to care about them. But if they're really top players, we make a big deal of it. But that shouldn't be the case. It should be all the rules apply for everyone equally. Now,
Vince,
I don't know. I just think that this is in dangerous territory now, where we're starting to give players weeks and weeks off to deal with things that a lot of other people have to deal with every day of their lives, and they're not getting paid anything like what these blokes are.
Well, I just put a thing up there.
If you want to be in the pressure cooker of AFL, there are certain things you're going to have to come to terms with. If you're going to start demanding high salaries and be in the elite of your sport, that comes with expectation. It comes with media scrutiny. It comes with, not being able to walk down the street without being recognised. These are the realities of playing football, and in fact, a lot of sports, at the top level. And if you want to be paid the big bucks, you're going to have to deal with these things. So,
hang on, Vince.
It's changed from the 70s and 80s, but gee whiz, people are just so soft in today's society.
Well, that's what I want to say. Petra's put up player welfare is paramount and support as a secondary. Yeah, I guess. And then she says mental issues and losing a quarter of your annual salary is not in the same ballpark, Vince. I think it is, because you need money to live. But Jai also says, I agree with Petra, but at the same time, requesting leave is a privilege. It's very easy to abuse. You go to work tomorrow, Vince, and say, look, I don't know what's wrong with Harry, right? Well, I don't know, right? I'm speculating, but let's assume that he's got a broken heart from his girlfriend leaving him, okay? And you go to work tomorrow and you say to your boss, I need to take time off. And your boss, he's pretty reasonable bloke, very, very understanding, and says, tell me, Vince, what's wrong? And Vince says, Tanya left me. What do you think your boss is going to say? Your boss isn't going to go, oh, gee, Vince, I feel really sorry for you. Go and take time off and come back when you feel better. Yes, we need to protect them. I'm sure the boss will go, gee, Vince, that's not very good. Is there something I can do to help you? We're not saying throw them out. I think people are getting a mixed message when we're talking about these, wrapping arms and all that. Yeah, you got to be understanding, but at the end of the day, you need to understand that when you take money, you have a commitment. And,
yes.
We all have problems.
A contract is both ways, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to say.
But we all have issues every day.
That's
and
right.
we have to learn to deal with them, and we have to learn to live with them. And some people, unfortunately, turn to alcohol. Some people turn to drugs, right? Do they find answers? They don't find the answers in the bottle. It might make them feel good for a minute. But I just think there's too much, I don't know, you want to call it soft or whatever, I don't know. But I just think people go over the top with this, we need to wrap the arms around you. And yes, we need to embrace and help them. But does that mean go off on leave and don't come back till you feel better? No, Petra, your boss wouldn't do that to you. So I think, we need yes, Petra is speaking generalities, but I just think people are way too. I don't know. They've gone over the other edge, and I think when Reese was playing, they probably went too far the other way. Oh, you're a blood nose. Get back on the ground. What are you? You know, that was probably the wrong attitude too. But that's what happened in those times, right? I remember.
Yeah.
Look, I wasn't a great footballer, but I remember playing. The coach used to tear strips off us, right? But these days, yelled at me.
It's certainly different times. Look, that's for sure. It's certainly different times compared to, when you and I were teenagers and young men back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But, I don't know. Where does it all end? The question I have is, where does it all end? And how many players are you going to allow to do this? Does it seem to be okay for one or two? But the minute it becomes, I guarantee you, if you had another half a dozen of them do this, the club will say, we've got to put a stop to this. This is getting out of control.
Yeah, but Vince, Harry played in a reserves game on the weekend.
Yeah, I know.
So if you can play the reserves, why can't you step out on Thursday night?
He clearly doesn't want to play
night?
Seniors for some reason. There must be a reason why he doesn't want to make himself available to play in the Seniors if that's the case.
Well, Petra, anyway, I know you probably work for yourself. Unfortunately, not everyone is that lucky.
Can I just mention one?
I do too.
I hope my audio is better now. I think one of the comments that came up before was that my audio wasn't great. Hopefully it's better for you now. The other thing I just wanted to mention was there was a goal you mentioned about the Aaron Norton goal. Well, I'll tell you what, that was the square up for the one that they got wrong when Darcy kicked the ball that went through, and seriously, even the commentators on TV made a big noise about this. That there was no evidence at all. There was no conclusive evidence that ball had been touched. They clearly guessed it. The person on the mic on the day said, we can see that the ball has been touched by the Carlton defender. No, you can't. There's not a person on this planet that could see that ball had been touched by the Carlton defender. They guessed. And even if it had been touched by a fingernail, there was no evidence based on the video footage that could tell you that ball had been touched. So yet again, we've got substandard technology and we've got a score review system that they're not adhering to the rules. The rules are that there must be conclusive, and I stress conclusive evidence that the ball's been touched before you can overturn a decision made by the goal umpire.
Yeah. Okay, so Petra's just put up, Slobo said something about her, and she said, I'm just taking the side of the play. Look, that's what's good about the show. Everyone's entitled to a say, and there's no right, there's no wrong. It is what it is. Petra's right, Slobo's right, no one's wrong. So we're all just moving on. Vince, it's now time for the big Vincenz bet of the week.
How did we go last week, Joe?
Well, can I just say, hang on. What's going on here? Can I just say...
Carlton let us down again.
And Port.
And Port. I think I got the other
and
two.
And GWS. Right. And Geelong.
No. That's wrong. I tipped GWS with a margin of 12.5 on our side, and they lost by 12. So I actually got on that one. And Geelong also got within, I think, 9 points in the end. So
they got. So you got
that
two.
was also correct.
Two.
But yeah, Port Adelaide were very disappointing against Essendon. All they had to do was to win by 7 points or more, but they got done by 2 goals. And Carlton, well, I tipped us to win by at least 2 points, but we lost by 8. So we're getting a lot closer, but
getting closer.
Still no cigar.
So this week, Vince, go for it.
This week. Okay. Now I'm going for all these teams, but they've got to win by at least the margins you see
12.
on the right. So we're going Collingwood to win by at least 12 points. So we get 11.5 point start. Collingwood must win by at least 12. Geelong to win by at least 25 against Melbourne down at the Cattery. I think the way Melbourne.
I think they will. I think that's a shoo-in.
I think after Geelong having lost by 9 points on the weekend, and two losses in a row for them. I think they're going to be smarting, and they'll have to come back against Melbourne surely. Gold Coast, I'm tipping to win by at least 3 points up there on the Gold Coast.
No, they'll do that
on the weekend. Now, who are they playing again? I think they're playing.
Well, you did the tips.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of who they're playing. I haven't got it in front of me at the moment. Anyway, we're going for Gold Coast.
I will tell you.
3 anyway. I think it's going to be a very close game, whoever they're playing.
They're playing Adelaide. They're playing Adelaide.
Yes, the Adelaide Crows are in very good form. So
they're second.
I think that Gold Coast on their home turf should be able to get the job done by at least 3 points there. And we're tipping Port Adelaide to get back some winning form back at home against St Kilda, who won their last 2 games. But, of course, it all comes down to who you play and where you play them. And I think St Kilda got smashed by the Adelaide Crows a couple of weeks ago over there at Adelaide. So I'm suggesting that Port should be able to at least win by 13 points against the Saints. So that's our bet for this week.
And we should win $130. Let's see how you're tracking.
Yep.
As usual, no wins, losses $30. And after this week, it'll be lost $40.
Well, let's hope that we can get one. All we got to do is land one of these, and we'll be up to nearly double our money.
Yeah. Anyway,
original money.
And just to update people, the ladder is now in. So I'll go back to the ladder and I'll tell you where everyone sits.
Oh, Rat Poison! I just saw one of Rat Poison's comments. Oh my!
Yeah,
goodness.
I know. we won't say that.
No.
So as you'll see here, it's Carlton, Melbourne, Fremantle, West Coast. Well, Fremantle have moved to 13th.
Yes.
Essendon to 14th. Richmond 15th. Carlton 16th. Melbourne 17th. And West Coast on the bottom of the ladder. Yes. So, Vince, that brings us to the end of our show. But let's just have a bit of a recap about what's on the Jumper Punch channel this week. Tuesday night, you got the boys, and I happened to have joined them last Tuesday night for 4 hours of totally riveting entertainment.
You looked absolutely, riveted there for 4 hours on Tuesday night.
No, I got to tell you one thing. I didn't mind it. I didn't have any coffee, but I had a shot of their grappa, which sort of
puts you to sleep.
Well, halfway through the show, it started to get a bit hot, and the grappa was taking effect, and I'm like falling asleep. So I don't know. People were seeing me.
It's quite warm in that studio, actually,
and
very warm.
It is quite warm, and
they need to put the air conditioning on for you.
I wanted to take personal leave, but they wouldn't let me, so I just thought through. And Rocco says, this is funny, Joe clutching the pillow. I don't know what it is. I have done that since I was a kid, even at home when I'm watching something. Even when I sleep, you can ask my girlfriend, I've got this like pillow that I hold. Because she always asks me, how come you're not cuddling me? And I'm going, oh, no, I've got my pillow. So I don't know what it is. I don't know.
Did your mum not give you enough love when you were a kid or something?
Probably. I don't know. Maybe. Something like that. Anyway, Tuesday night, Jumper Punch, Rocco, Paolo, Mars. Be interesting to hear Rocco this week. I was just with him. He was so he's not a happy man, put it that way. And I think his rant's going to be quite interesting. Wednesday night, Forever Rivals. Now, last week you asked me about Rash's show.
Yes.
They haven't decided when they're coming back. There's a few issues there. Nothing major. Logistical issues, yeah.
Right.
But they'll be back probably later on in the year.
Yeah. And Rash is out with illness at the moment.
Rash is on personal leave.
Yes.
It's because his football team is shit. That's what he says. And he just can't bear he's getting stage fright.
Yes.
And then the Jewel in the Crown next Sunday, 7:30. Yours truly, Big Vincenz and David Rhys-Jones. Don't forget, you can find us Facebook at Blue Sunday and on YouTube at The Jumper Punch. So, Vince, unfortunately, we don't get to play the Carlton song because it's not a win. but
We haven't played it once this year.
I think I played it before the first game just to give people the taste.
But we've all forgotten it now.
Anyway.
Let's hope we can get over the line against the Magpies. Wouldn't that be a great shot in the arm for us?
Well, let's hope. So anyway, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And go those mighty Blues.
Go Blues.
And